Okay, good afternoon. And what we are going to actually talk today is about Porter's five forces of competitive analysis, right? Okay, so let's start and let's start with it. So when we talk of Porter's five forces of competitive analysis, these are the things that we are going to talk about, right? So let's start with first Porter's five forces, which Michael Porter. This was designed by Michael Porter, which is a framework for analyzing and the nature of competition within an industry. And what are these five forces that we have? These are the five forces: competition, new entrants, buyers, suppliers, and substitutes. Right. So as I said, the five forces model was developed by Michael Porter to help the companies for assessing the nature of the industry's competitiveness and also to develop corporate strategies accordingly. Okay, so and these five forces which actually determine the level of profit within an industry that a competitor can expect to make. So through this model, what happens is the Porter actually talks about the five forces that affect any market and all industries. And these forces also determine how much competition will exist in a market and which ultimately results in the profitability and attractiveness of the market for a company, right? So, and with the help of proper strategy, a company can shape these forces and bring it to its advantage to strengthen its position in the industry. Okay, so and this model actually also helps him to provide a new way to use effective strategy for identifying, analyzing, and managing external factors in an organization's environment. And it also helps to to determine the intensity of competition in an industry, right? And its profitability level. That's what we just spoke a while ago, right? So it talks about, when we talk of an attractive market, what does it talk about? It talks about the unique selling propositions, strategies, and processes, which will help in putting one company above the other. Okay, right. So the Porter's five forces, see, these are the five factors that we have. So if you see, the competitive rivalry in an industry is determined by the threat of new entrants, bargaining power, threat of substitutes, and the bargaining power of customers. So these are the five. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So let's go into a little details of these factors. Competitive rivalry within an industry. This is one of the major factors which tells us how competitive and profitable an industry is, right? So what happens in any competitive industry, firms have to compete very fiercely for its market share, resulting in low profits, right? So rivalry happens, it becomes intense when there are more competitors, exit barriers are high. When you talk of industry growth is slow or negative, products are not differentiated, but means it can be easily substituted. Competitors are of equal size and low customer loyalty. Right? So this is the example of McDonald's. Next comes up is bargaining power of suppliers. Right. So when we talk of strong bargaining power of what happens, it allows suppliers to sell higher priced or lower quality materials to their buyers because there are multiple suppliers. Very few suppliers means what, they have higher bargaining power. More suppliers means what? Buyers have if suppliers create problem, one supplier, buyers have an option to go for another. When you have less suppliers, then it becomes problem, right? So which actually what happens, it affects the buying firm's profits because it has to pay more. When do you have a higher supplying buyers? When do suppliers have a higher bargaining power? When, as I said, few suppliers. Suppliers are large, and when they threaten to, sometimes they are large in size, and they threaten to forward integrate. Few substitute materials, raw materials available. Suppliers hold some scarce resources. Cost of switching raw materials is high. Okay, so this is an example where we talk of suppliers, that is of Toyota. Next comes up, next factor is bargaining power of buyers. When does that happen? When buyers have a when they have the when can they have a higher bargaining power? When they have the power to demand low price or high product quality, right? From their industry producers. Low price here means when lower revenues for the producer. Higher quality products usually raise production costs. So both these cases actually result in lower profit for producers. And when do we have customers having higher bargaining power? When they are buying in large quantities, or controls made some access points to final customers. Few customers are there where switching costs to other supplier are low. They threaten to backward integrate when there are many substitutes and when customers are price sensitive. So example is when we talk of Coca-Cola. Threat of new entrants. What happens? It talks about how easy or how difficult it is to enter a particular market, right? And when there are few barriers to entry, what happens? And the industry is profitable. Few barriers to entry means rivalry will intensify. More big competitors coming in, right? Market share competing. So what in person and individual firms market share goes down, right? More because there are more firms. Profit starts falling. And when do we have a threat of new entrants? When is it high? When we talk of when there is low amount of capital is required to enter a market, when the existing companies can do little to retaliate, and the existing firms do not possess patents, trademarks, or do not have established brand reputation, no government regulation, low customer loyalty, products are nearly identical, and economies of scale can be easily achieved. Okay, so right, example is of geo telecommunications. Okay, next comes up is next factor is threat of substitute products. Right, when buyers can easily find substitute products which are with attractive prices, better quality, or and that's when they switch from one product or service to another with little cost. What and example is when people shift from coffee to tea, which doesn't cost much, right? So what are the factors here? If the customer's switching cost is low, right? If the substitute product is cheaper than the industry's product, the substitute product is of equal or higher or superior quality. And what happens if the functions, attributes, or performance of the substitute product are equal or superior to the industry's product, right? So what are these are importance of Porter's five forces, like what strategy to use. Then comes up is it's how to deal with competition, better knowledge of the strategy and that influence the design making. Industry analysis comes up, relevance, what are key players, structure and future changes, strategies coming up from there, and to measure and monitor strategy effectiveness, right? So this is the importance that we have. And what are the limitations? It doesn't clearly touch on these forces. What are these forces? The other forces, which is the IT, unstable economy conditions, needs, government laws, globalization, customer expectation, organization, reinvention, environmental factors. Okay, so that's all that we have here, right? So if you have any questions, please let me in, tell me in class, right? Okay.